We'll call the meeting to order with the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to the July 8th Board of Supervisors meeting, and we'll start with the I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. And add 9.6 at the bottom of the engineer's report.
I'll second that.
9.6 is the resolution for the economic development law and the transportation plan. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the amended agenda? Call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any questions, comments, corrections to the minutes of the June meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, that takes us down to public comments at this time. Anyone wish to make any public comments at this time? Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm Susanna Eisenhower, 400 York Street. For those that don't know me, tractor trailer issues. The last meeting, Daryl had suggested about getting a sign out there. The York County Regional Police did call me today to approve my permission to put it there, and they did put a sign on my property at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So it says, "Attention all trucks, no right turn, go straight." That's exactly what it says. So talking to the officer, he's finding, they are writing tickets, and I see him doing it all the time. And their problem is they thought they were going to come across, repeat offenders, but they're not. It's just, there's just so many trucks. So, and the other thing was, like we all know, half of them don't speak English. So if they can't read this sign, like they can't read the picture signs, it won't do any justice. But anyhow, I appreciate everything that everybody's doing, and I told him the same thing, and he said, we'll give it a whirl and see what happens, see if it helps or slows things down. So other than that, that's pretty much all I have. I did ask about the Ballards, if we could visit that and cut it down or whatever, and you can let me know about that.
Yeah, we'll get back to you.
Yep. And Joe Dorsey, I appreciate you trying to get a hold of him. He didn't answer me either, so.
Well, he's tough to get a hold of right now, so.
And I wrote the other young lady's name down that you told me to reach out to, and I hadn't yet.
Senator Phillips. Senator. Oh gosh.
Was it Kate something?
Chrissy Hillfield?
Kiefer.
Oh, Kiefer.
Yeah,
Kiefer.
Senator
Okay.
Kiefer's our senator
Okay.
now.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Thank you.
Have you noticed any decrease in truck turnover?
I think it has decreased some, but it just amazes me.
Yeah.
The ones that still making the turn and coming down. I mean, it's just like all hours. Like I said, I'm coming down a lot at night because of my rescue dogs. So, I mean, it's 2, 3 in the morning. They're out there. They're hung up. They don't know where to go. It's just crazy. I mean, I will agree. I think it has decreased. I don't know if I'm going to just stop.
Right.
But I'd like to fix my problem and hope that it doesn't get redamaged. So.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comments? Takes us in the emergency services report. Chief, you're up.
Good evening. Sorry to run out on you earlier, but here I am. I don't really have anything to add to my report, but be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
I have a question. The Warrington Township, I see there was one call to Warrington. That seems pretty far. I mean, Chester usually doesn't do that. Is that a standby, mutual aid?
Yes. I'm trying to recall because that was May. It was one of two things. It was either a backfill for a while they were on a larger event. More likely, it was probably, we run RIT response, rapid intervention team, which is a firefighter rescue team that goes to working structure fires. So we do get requests in that area. We probably get up there a half dozen times a year. There are a couple other places where we do that service as well. Sunday morning, we were in West Yorkboro. They had a fire, so we get requested there. So I had spoken to the chief several years ago because that's a long drive for it. It's a 20, 25-minute response just to get into the lower portion of their area. He has no desire to change that. It's a half a dozen times.
Only one other question, and my other colleagues. I noticed in your report where you do fire extinguisher training. Is that for industrial and commercial users?
It's for anyone. We've done, mostly we do commercial and industrial places. And Shane and I and Christy have been talking about getting the township folks here done, which we just never settled on a date. That's probably both our faults. But mostly, yes. We occasionally get some civic groups, occasionally a church group or maybe a Boy Scout troop or something. But we do that, and we do that for donation.
Well, that's a nice service you provide. I appreciate that. And, I hope you make out well with your donations. But that's all the questions I have for Chief. Anyone else?
Nope.
No. Thank you, Chief. York County Regional Police Report, I'm going to let Daryl handle that because I could not make the last meeting.
We had a report that we received a grant of something like $19,000 to help PCCD help with the emergency with Spring Garden Township. All's going well since you worked, two departments merged, and no hiccups at this time. We had to revise the budget for the expenses and revenue with Spring Garden coming on board, and also we're assigning an SRO to the York Suburban School District. The law was passed recently that school districts now have to have some sort of security SRO or some private enterprise to provide security. So this will be the first time for them. They have not had an SRO just under the Spring Garden. Other than that, everything's going good.
Did we sign a contract with Penn State York?
Yes.
To provide that supplemental protection, right?
Yes. Mutual aid agreement with Penn State. Yep.
Good. I know we were working on that. Any questions for the police report?
Yes, sir.
Can I just clarify, did I hear you say that the departments merged?
There were two recent mergers. We merged, what, in 22?
22.
Northeastern Regional merged with York Township. And we just recently merged York County Regional with Spring Garden.
I just want to clarify.
So now we went from 60 to 80 officers in a bigger area. So,
Thank you.
yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, you kind of answered my follow-up question too. I was going to ask the reason for the merge, but if it's just to cover, did you say it's to cover a wider area?
Yeah, Spring Garden, it really surrounds the city. It's contiguous with York Township, so it's contiguous with our regional area that we cover now. It made sense for Spring Garden Township to merge. They saved money going for a larger department, has the economy of scale, that sort of thing. We were always sharing detectives back and forth anyhow, and it was just one of these meant to be things, and it happened. They looked at other departments as well to consider merging with them, and they decided that York County Regional was a fit for them. So I hope that answers your question, Aaron.
We did keep the Spring Garden Police Station. We have a contract agreement about leasing the space there. And that is now the home of the detectives. We've moved the detectives and their accreditation will be run out of there. And some training and possibly the SROs may report from that office too. But the idea is that local residents can still go there and get service they need. That's same as we have up here at Northeastern District now.
Okay. Any other questions concerning police? I will move on to the SWIFT insurance for the municipality. We share it with the two boroughs. It goes on a percentage for the insurance company, goes on a number of residents. And we usually pay, let me see, Manchester Borough, we pay what, 72%?
72%.
And that equates.
Oh, wait, Manchester Borough is 57% and Mount Wolf Borough is 72%.
The question I have is why is Manchester lower than Mount Wolf payments?
I wasn't here during that time, but apparently there was a big fight about that with the previous board and Manchester Borough. And, but we definitely, in here, we can look at that now.
Do you know, Joe?
I was under the impression that there was a formula developed by the state that the municipalities follow.
Because you're talking about the total payment, right, not the allocation or share. Right?
Yeah,
No, that's our share.
Right?
That's our share.
That's our payment.
And so it gets back to the percentage allocation versus the total amount of the bill. So it's based on census data, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so it's taking each borough individually and comparing it to our number of residents.
That's correct.
And that's why one has a higher percentage, the other one has a lower. So there's less residents, which I can't remember which is what side now.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking census, Manchester Borough has more population than Mount Wolf.
I don't think so.
Don't they?
Which percentage goes to what again? Who gets 72?
72, we pay 72% of Mount Wolf Borough's bill.
Okay, so they have a lower
They
residency.
have a lower residence, yes.
Of the Manchester Borough.
Right.
So that's the reason for the difference. I thought you were talking maybe about the total bill itself, which probably gets to Chief Stevens' comment about being some formula based.
Okay.
I think the formula was developed by the state.
Okay, thanks.
More or less unfair.
Okay, the allocation for this year is about $1,000 lower than last year. The payment to Manchester Borough comes out to $10,589.46. I will make a motion that we make payment to Manchester Borough in that amount.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to Mount Wolf. Mount Wolf, the share is, and I'll make a motion that we pay $11,745.28 to the Mount Wolf Borough for the 25-26 state workers insurance fund.
I'll second that.
Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We do this every year, and we follow that same formula that's been consistent throughout the years. I check the chart, which the chart is right here.
Yep. We only go back a couple of years.
Speaking from Mount Wolf, last year's was 24 was 13,262, and 25 is 11,000, so it came down.
And it'll always vary. It'll go up and down depending on how much the workman's comp insurance is getting used and how many, volunteers they have and such.
Okay. That moves us on to 6 special requests. Christie, we have a special request?
Yes. I received an email from Steve Garland, who I believe is the president of Orchard Glen Townhome Development. And is he here?
Mr. Garland here tonight?
He doesn't look
He's president of the HOA?
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, I can just tell you what he requested. So I do recall that sometimes he arrives later in the meeting, but he didn't tell me that he was gonna arrive later this time. He said he would like to petition the township to adopt a maximum number of animals allowed in residential homes.
Repeat that, please.
He wants you to adopt a maximum number of animals allowed in residential homes. I believe he's talking about domestic animals. They have a resident in their development that has a lot of animals, and since the SPCA animal enforcer passed away a couple of months ago, the SPCA has not filled that position, and apparently that code enforcement officer used to follow up on that property to do like a welfare check on those animals. And so they're already fining her. I don't know under what, but they are trying to figure out another way to get her to get rid of some of these animals.
And so the HOA is fining her because of their charter and everything, and that's not working.
Yeah, she's one of those people who, you know, they keep fining and she doesn't care, she just pays it. We have a couple of those under our belt too for citations.
So I'll ask the board, is there any interest in enacting a maximum domestic animal?
No.
No is my quick answer, and I don't think you'd have any different outcome other than, because if we put an ordinance in, all we'd be able to do is fine them as well.
Well, and it would be entering a home, so staff is not qualified or equipped to deal with animals.
Yeah.
Or even going inside of a home without police. And none of our other ordinances addresses staff going into a home.
So it's a totally different level of
Yes,
skill
that's
and
correct.
cost.
That's my contention is that police would need a search warrant to go in there. The search warrant had to be based off information from a complainant. He or she would then be needed to testify that this is the information they gave the police. Police got a search warrant. It's just another, something more the police don't have time to do to begin with. Also, the HOA, they want to set rules. That's their problem. That's their issue. They can do all that. My problem with having a specific ordinance for it is what counts as how many of what species. You could have dogs, cats, birds, goldfish, turtles, iguanas. How many of each are you allowed? What size of the residence? You know, we have people that have many animals. They take care of everything. They have a large home or something, or they got yard space that do that. In the past, I know the SPCA has come out. We did a resident on North George Street that had many dogs and cats. They handled it. We assisted, as police, we assisted them. So I'm not favoring creating something that we really can't enforce.
Okay, just for clarification, the SPCA representative to come out to the home was not in enforcement, it was a welfare check of the animals, correct?
That's correct.
Moving on. Correspondence, Christie.
I have something that's not on the agenda, which is not a big deal to even add it, but just so everyone knows, I am trying to collect historic pictures to put on the walls, you know, of East Manchester Township. And so I got a hold of NEY CHIP History Center, and they said that they're going to do a whole exhibit on East Manchester Township in April to June of 2026 at their center, and I think that's neat. But they're also going to gather pictures for me within the next couple of weeks here so that I can make that happen. And then they also sent me a flyer. It's Northeastern York County in the Civil War. Speech by Scott Mingus Sr. at the York Haven Library. He is a multiple award-winning author. And he's written more than 30 Civil War and Underground Railroad books and numerous articles for historical journals. And you can purchase one of his books at his event. And so anyways, I just thought I'd let you all know that because I think that's super interesting, especially if you're into history and stuff. That's all I have.
Okay.
And then I do have the flyer here for anyone who wanted to look at it, take a picture of it or something.
Okay. Any questions on that, gentlemen?
Thanks for the information.
You're welcome.
All right, that takes us down to Andy's report. Go ahead, Andy, you're up.
The first item on my report are the noise ordinance amendments and the amendment to the zoning ordinance and Saldo. We made the changes to the noise ordinance that were discussed at the last meeting, and I provided a red line copy of that. They were fairly simple changes and I think at the last meeting we had some of the noise levels changed, but we eliminated snow blowers from section 137-3I for operation of equipment between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. And then in 137-4D, we modified that to reference no person shall operate sound amplifying equipment mounted on, attached to, or pulled by, we added or pulled by any motor vehicle at any time in such manner as to exceed maximum permissible motor vehicle noise emissions. And then lastly, we added cable as part of the definition of emergency services, which would be exempted. In other words, cable repairs or cable repair services, it would be exempted from the sound limits. The tables, I think we discussed last month, and I left some comments in the document from Eddie Duncan regarding the sound levels and how we arrived at those numbers. This has been submitted to York County Planning Commission and the Township Planning Commission. It has not been, we don't have a report back from the Planning Commission yet. The board, it's up to the board, you can schedule this, enough time will have lapsed. We should have comments before the August meeting. I've emailed Mike Schaefer at the County Planning Commission just to confirm this is on the July agenda for them. The board can authorize us to advertise this for a public hearing at the August meeting if you would like to do so. Or you can wait to get the York County Planning Commission comments back and then authorize advertisement at that point. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I think we've talked about this a number of times now.
I was present at the Planning Commission when he discussed this, and we got an excellent Planning Commission, and he asked all the right questions, and we made some subtle changes, and that's where I wanted to see it go through the Planning Commission before. So I'm happy with the changes that we made, and I'm prepared to make a motion that we authorize advertisement for a hearing for the August 12th meeting for the noise ordinance.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we will get that advertised and scheduled for the August 12th meeting. And then the next item is the data centers ordinance. And this would be an amendment to the zoning ordinance that would create an agricultural innovation and AI district in the township that would be identical or nearly identical to the existing agricultural district, but would add data centers as a permitted use in that district, and then would add
fairly extensive regulations of data centers as supplemental regulations in the ordinance. One other provision or modification we did make in this was that any dwelling rights would still be applicable on the parcels in this new district. And the one change being that if a data center was developed on the property, the dwelling rights would either have to be severed from that property and transferred to another property where they could be used, or they would be forfeited entirely for that property and that use. So we tried to address that in here. This district would be, I think, the other portion of this is to amend the zoning map. And I believe we had reached agreement or come to a consensus of the properties that would be included in this district. And we would have to, as well, prepare an amendment to the zoning map to go with this ordinance. So if there's any questions or any discussion,
So I have so we all have to clear in mind, we'll come back, and then we'll get to the hearing. Switch the hearing, we can hear it out, where and how to propose this.
yes, you will have to, and for the hearing, you'll have to post the parties because this one is just limited. Maybe 4 or 5 that were total parcels that were part of this.
Some of them are landlocked. Where would I post them? How would I post those?
I mean, I think on those parcels, if they have access somewhere, I mean, I would just post at the access point. The landowners will have to be mailed notice as well. And I don't know if you want to mail notice to, your ordinance, I don't believe requires that you give notice to surrounding properties, but a lot of times that's done. Some ordinances require it. I don't think that yours does.
Can you send me the template letters? Me and keep the template letters.
Yeah, it'll just be the notice that we advertise is usually all that gets sent to them.
Okay.
So we can prepare that. I think the next step would be to send the map amendment or do the map amendment and send the zoning ordinance and that map to both planning commissions. I think the Township Planning Commission, did the Township Planning Commission look at the zoning map at all in the parcels? I think that would be the next step for them. They would have to look at the map as well. County Planning Commission could look at the ordinance and the map at the same time. But I think that would be the next step. Once you have comments back on that, then I think you can advertise it for public hearing.
So, yeah, I'm very interested in having our planning commission look at the map and discuss where we're going to propose these, so.
And we'll put that amendment language together. And what I will probably do a separate amendment because there's different advertising requirements for the text amendment and then for the map amendment. So we'll probably try to keep those separate. What we submit be considered a draft for them to look at and make decisions how to modify.
So logistics are first to go to the respective planning commissions before notice is put out to any residents.
Yes, that's what, you're required to provide notice of the, I mean, it'll be on the agendas,
Right.
but your requirement to provide notice isn't triggered until you formally decided to schedule it for a public hearing.
Okay.
Because they're entitled to notice of the public hearing.
And the next piece of that, like you mentioned, certain things were landlocked. Is there anything that would prevent us from, mailing a letter or notice to the surrounding property holders, just so that they're
do
not,
that.
it's like on the access roads,
Good idea.
like just the people that live back there might see it versus somebody that has some contiguous property to it.
I was thinking of doing the same procedure that we do for zoning hearing boards.
That's what I was thinking.
The law says up to 100 feet of, from all the property angles, but we go up to 200 feet just in case to
I'm
get
just
everybody.
Thinking of
Right,
the
it's 100.
contiguous properties that would
Yeah.
connect to it, because
Good idea.
if it were my property, I'd certainly want to know that something was changing.
So then I'll make a motion that we send this to the respective planning commissions and wait to hear their comments.
Second.
Further discussion? That covers everything, Andy, we need?
Yes, it does. We'll get that submitted to the planning commissions. It will, I'm sure at this point, go on the August planning commission meeting agenda for the county. Township can probably still get it on the July.
Okay, call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Those are the only two things I had to, as agenda items, I believe, to report on, unless there's any questions from anyone.
Does anyone have any questions for Andy?
No.
No.
I do, Andy. AmeriCorps is on, I read somewhere where it's currently on hold. I want to make sure that they are aware that they can negotiate certain items through our emergency services department and not the township.
I think that's fine to have that discussion with them, whether that comes from Christie or Chief Stevens or.
I can shoot a reminder email out. I haven't heard anything, have you?
I have not gotten any responses to anything.
After
They
that
still
call
don't
we
have
had.
conditional approval even, correct? That's still just a pending. plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Second-
they are, and just, so everyone understands, they are protected from any ordinance changes while that plan is pending. So the clock
Yeah.
hasn't started to run on the plan.
Second question, Canal Road Betterment Program. Do we have a plan?
So we've had some, what I will describe as challenging calls with the group. I will say with one party in the group,
Mhm.
I think that Hillwood and Kinsley have been very reasonable in their positions and have made a very strong attempt to get a resolution of this. And North Point is just continues to push back on the basis that, I mean, what it came down to in the last call was they just wouldn't agree on anything because they say it's not far enough along for the numbers to be certain about the costs. Hillwood and Kinsley have proposed that they just pay a lump sum like DHL did, or that Manchester, North Point through Manchester, just pay a lump sum like DHL did. Kinsley and Hillwood would assume all further risk from that point forward, and responsibility for doing the work in the project. And so far, North Point has refused to agree to anything in that respect. Hillwood and Kinsley have come significantly down from their original proposal, and Hillwood has, since the last call we had, circulated an even reduced offer that would lower the amount they have to contribute even more. And I have not seen any response to that. We do have a call set up later in July with North Point, or at least with Stacy McNeil, to discuss the formal dedication or a deed of dedication for North Point's right of way for exit 26 and along the frontage of the property. I'm sure this will be a subject that comes up in that call. But right now, that's what the impasse is. As of now, it's not holding anything up because Erdman Anthony is still, they've got permit applications pending with DEP and with PennDOT, and they continue to try to refine the design, I guess, for the intersection in particular and the bridge.
So it's, stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I guess what's frustrating about it is they're digging their heels in over what are very minimal amounts in comparison to the size of the road project and the size of the warehouse projects. They're really, they're fighting over low six-figure numbers and the difference between the two, but they just simply have dug their heels in on it. So,
Okay. And my final question, Andy, is, and this came, I think it was originally the manager's suggestion, to see if the township can create a fire services fee or semantics tax on industrial partners.
so the second class township code does provide the ability to levy an assessment or a fee for fire services specifically and EMS services. In fact, I think there's two different sections that allow you to create a special millage and levy for that. However, that has to be equally applied across the board, so it's based on assessed value. You can do a fire hydrant assessment, which you do, which is specific and can be levied on the properties benefiting for it. But generally speaking, what you cannot do is try to levy a tax on a specific use of the property or a specific zoning district that you don't levy elsewhere. So you can't create a levy just for industrial properties.
But industrial properties are the ones that require special equipment.
You can't differentiate, meaning, right?
Right.
So if you put this tax out and you would hit, would you be able to levy it across where all the industrial buildings are versus, say, the strip mall?
You can't create, your property taxation isn't like, it's not like sewer assessments where you can do it based on districts.
Okay.
I mean, it applies across the board. It's not really, I guess, maybe the other way to think about it is, and we've had this discussion before, it seems unfair that for assessment appeals and challenging assessed values of property, that industrial or some commercial properties that appreciate in value much faster than residential properties can't be targeted to be reassessed because of that differential, and the differential guess, loss of tax revenue on those properties compared to residential. But you have to have a policy that applies across the board, and you can't differentiate. You can't say we're just gonna file assessment appeals on industrial properties or commercial properties. That's a constitutional issue in Pennsylvania, and just something that you're severely limited in the ability to do.
Thank you for that. Any other questions for Andy? Thank you, Andy. That moves us on to engineer's report. I'm going to look down to Shane, our Public Works Director, to fill in for our engineer.
I'll actually jump in, if that's okay. I'll do the first one, the DEP planning module, and then the amended part of the agenda I'll also handle. And actually, I'll do the North Sherman Street portion of it as well. So 9.2 DEP planning module. This is resolution 2025-12 for a plan revision for the new land development of a final minor subdivision for Rebecca Gross at Jerusalem School Road. It's a 5-lot subdivision for her family. And basically what this resolution does is it's saying that the township adopts and submits to DEP for its approval as a revision. And we're basically saying that this conforms to the applicable sewage-related zoning and other sewage-related municipal ordinances and plans, and to a comprehensive program of pollution control and water quality management, which I've been speaking to Byron about, our engineer, and he said that he approves this or recommends it to the board for approval.
Okay. Board's wishes.
Everything checks out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we should move forward.
Byron's recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, is that your motion?
I will make a motion to approve resolution 2025-12 for a DEP planning module plan revision for the new land development for the final minor subdivision for Rebecca A. Gross, Jerusalem School Road.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
The next item, 9.3, North Sherman Street Extended PennDOT and Township Project. Byron did get the PennDOT permit. He's working with finalizing the SU, which is really the underground utilities. And that's pretty much almost complete here. I just had to sign a couple of papers for him yesterday. And he had a meeting with PennDOT yesterday as well. So that's getting on its way, and that's looking good. So, and our deadline is still Labor Day, but we're on track. So, woohoo. Can't wait for this to be done.
Government works slow. This is 3 years in the making, this project. Okay.
So, is there any questions on that item?
No.
Does you say that we're on track for Labor Day of this year?
This year.
Okay.
Well, not for the work to be done, though. The work, they go out for bidding in the fall for spring of next year work, okay?
So we got another year yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good question. And then the next two items here, I'm gonna hand over to Shane for Willow Springs cul-de-sac and the Espresso Way improvements.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the cut sheets, fires that are happening this week for Willow Springs cul-de-sac.
Do have a question for Andy. Should we notify Manchester Township about this?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. I think you're going to have to notify them. There is that intermunicipal agreement related to the road. So
Right.
I think certainly better for them to be notified. They're aware that this is going on because we've talked about this multiple times
Right.
in the Canal Road meetings.
letting them know that it's,
Yeah.
that you're gonna do it,
All
I
right.
think would be wise.
Yeah, I'll still follow up with Tim, and if he wants to come out and look or whatever, see what he thinks. All right. And me and Byron are still, we're actually waiting on the DEP permit for the Chestnut Street Bridge repairs down here. That takes what it takes, it's DEP, so. And I seen, he did have some complaints, one of them was me, the new sheets is done. And the issues he's having here, so he's working with Eric Mouse, to try to address these. When you're going southbound on George Street and you turn into the left turning lane for either Golden Brew or Brickyard, the cars are already trying to get in that left turning lane coming northbound, even though they're supposed to wait till further up where the lines are changed. And yeah, some of them said he had one the other day, and that's one of the other things where he got about that. So it's a weird situation. Yeah, it's a weird situation. It is, but you did have a light there. True. The light is at left, so that whole thing they can utilize as a one left turn lane.
Oh, yeah.
We're using it the other way as left or right turn lanes, and that's where it gets a little
Yeah,
weird.
people don't understand what the painted lines are for.
No, so, yeah.
So what's the solution?
I don't know if they could change the lines, maybe mill the lines off, change the way the arrows are. From the start of it coming northbound, it's two arrows, left or right turn. And then once you get closer to the signal, it turns into two or three, might be three, left turn arrows.
Does that need PennDOT approval before it happens, right? Yeah,
Yeah, PennDOT built it, PennDOT designed it, so.
yeah.
And we knew that was gonna be a problem
Yeah, we're seeing it works out. I mean, no one wrecked yet or anything, but just a couple of people said about it is, you know, you're coming in while they're coming in, and you both end up in one. And like you said, it still does happen where the old Cheats was too.
Yeah.
Dean, so, yeah. Just a little different here because everybody's shooting for that left light lane.
there. Right, yeah, it's more problematic.
Yep.
Because I suspect there's far less traffic turning left in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I guess the real problem is if a truck is headed south and wanting to get in.
then you got an even longer issue there.
Right, but is that one of the things that was mentioned too? Like if trucks are having problems getting in there? Was
No.
that-
Yes, trucks, they said they were okay with that now from what Byron told me.
Oh, okay.
But their driveway got smaller at Golden Brew. That was the problem. It wasn't the way it was painted during the intersection.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
so that makes things
Yeah.
up. Thank you.
Shane, can we revert back to Willow?
Sure.
So what is our plan there? Are we gonna construct, put a gate in, a siren activated gate, and then open it at our discretion? At a certain time, once it's completed? Because I don't, we have to be careful. What I'm getting at is espresso construction in Willow.
Oh, no. So all we're doing now, Dave, is we are preparing the base on the part of the cul-de-sac that is on our property.
Okay.
So it can sit there in stone until next year for all that matters. But then it's done. And then for binder and top coat, the way Byron has it planned, it goes from our stone out over existing roadway whenever we're ready to do that. But this year, all it's going to be is stone.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That answers
Yeah.
my question.
So Espresso Way, actually, you want that to be finished before that becomes a cul-de-sac?
Correct. Yeah.
And we're still on track to put a siren activated gate there for emergency right of way through there?
You're going to need two of them.
Two of them.
One in the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac?
that's the bad part. One at the cul-de-sac and one at Canal. Yeah.
And I referred to our fire chief. Do you think, well, we either have to close it? Are you okay with it being closed? Or would you prefer access through there as a?
I think the thought was to, since it's already just to maintain that as an emergency bypass, if you will.
Yeah.
When needed. If it goes away, it doesn't really change anything.
once you get down to where the cul-de-sacs come in.
Nothing past that.
No, I have to access past there, so if it goes away, that's fine.
Just,
If it's-
Well, then the question,
well, question of
should we spend the money on that?
Well, question of curiosity. So those buildings that are along Espresso Way, if there's a major fire emergency or some situation, you had to close that road, that gives you an alternative to push traffic.
That's what I say.
And so I guess it's that kind of cost benefit, so it'd be kind of interesting to see, well, because technically if you shut it down, Willow Springs at the cul-de-sac, you wouldn't need any gates, right?
Correct.
So it's really the cost of the 2 siren-activated gates. I'd just say let's segregate those costs out and see if it makes financial sense to do that.
And, well, like the chief saying, the road's already built. It's not like we're putting in an emergency access pass.
I mean, that's what my point. The point is the only additional cost really
Is
are
the
those
sign.
2 siren-activated gates.
So if you closed it without siren activated gates, would it just be normal gates? Is that what I'm hearing? Because you'd have to do something, right?
They
So-
tear up the road.
It just wouldn't exist.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Oh.
exist.
I don't know, just tear it
You-
up.
If you wanted to leave the road, then you just said Jersey Barrier.
Or you do what they did there at that intersection of Susquehanna Trail and whatever it was where they closed off that road, they just put a big pile of dirt there. Can't remember that.
Yeah.
Down from the SPCA building. You know,
Yeah,
you
we-
could do
we
that
could-
down at the bottom so no one can pull up in there too. That's pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. But here you have 2 ends to close. You have to stop them from going over the cul-de-sac, plus stopping them from wanting to come up Canal Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a weird thing as far as, because it needs the 2 gates.
However, we're gonna have a lot of traffic at Expresso, a lot of trucks coming through and car traffic when we close Willow. So if anything does happen there, a trailer rolls over, blocks the road, we always have that.
Yep.
All the-
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a siren gate at the Canal Road end.
It's up to the chief.
Well,
Right, it wouldn't necessarily, we could just put gates there in the machine and use a house key, like we did, off of Bartlett.
Right.
The emergency
Yeah.
access.
Yeah, that'd be totally up to you. Now, I'm not sure. I can't remember what Byron's number was for what this is all costing.
So we just
This
farm
mo-
that out.
This money is also coming from, I want to say Maple Press, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, MRP on
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I think that was
So
all
we're getting
added
some
in.
developer contributions.
That was all added into the estimate, I think.
It was, but I was looking at the maintenance aspect, because you're gonna have a solar activated gate there and all that stuff that's expensive to maintain and stuff. If we have a padlock,
Right. Yeah, as long as the chief's okay with it.
yeah, as long as the chief's all right.
Yep. Yep.
We don't necessarily anticipate getting it.
That whole thing, yeah, for there. Yeah.
Okay.
But you said about, about putting the motion activated gate there and then closing it or opening it when ready. Those gates aren't that wide. So when the time comes that we're ready to close that road,
We're gonna install the gate.
yes, there's gonna need signage, traffic
Yeah.
devices and all this. I might even have to hire, what's his name, to figure out how to post this ahead of time.
Great, crazy.
Yeah, Greg, and see how he wants to do this.
Okay.
To notify everybody. Anything else on Byron's report?
I just have the
Expresso Way,
list.
Expresso Way, how's that coming along?
That's what it was here. It's still a DEP permit. Is
The
that
what permit?
Espresso Way?
DEP.
Okay. So that moves us down to 9.6 that we amended the agenda on. And that resolution is the Department of Community and Economic Development Multimodal Transportation Fund. And this is for a grant request in the amount of $315,201.00. And that grant is going to go to,
Willow Springs Lane,
okay,
not the cul-de-sac part.
Right,
This is
but
to
Willow Springs.
Correct.
repave it.
To a portion of Willow Springs.
Yeah.
not the entire right of way.
Right. And since I just got this yesterday and finalized it today, this would be resolution number 2025-13. And you're basically resolving that you designate myself and Shane to be the officials to execute any documents and agreements regarding the grant if awarded. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. I'll change it.
Was Daryl come up with that?
Look at you.
Yeah, he's all over that. Okay, I will make a motion that we approve, and hopefully the 13 number doesn't jinx the grant, for multimodal transportation fund grant, resolution 2025-13.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
That's all we have for engineers report.
Okay, that presents your report. I'll start off with the York County Sewer Authority minutes. Any questions on the minutes that we reviewed? We are still in search of a representative to sit on the Sewer Authority Board to represent East Manchester Township. Each municipality has 2 members. One of our members recently resigned, so we're in search of one. So if you know of anybody, or if anybody wants to take on that tremendous salary that we pay, you can step forward.
Sewer authority pays.
Which all zeros.
We can double it.
Yeah. And leads us into the zoning officer's report.
I don't have anything to really add to the zoning report unless somebody has a question on it.
Any questions for Kate?
No.
Oh my gosh, that's my mistake. Oh.
It'd be July 22nd. Yeah. Right. I didn't notice that.
I didn't read it. I'm so sorry.
Well, let me get to the sewer authority. Let me get to the, that's all right. Planning Commission meeting.
Yeah, July 22nd.
July 24th.
Second.
22nd.
Okay. Kate, your code enforcement report. Any questions for Kate in that?
No.
Anything you want to talk about? Well,
High grass and weeds out there. That's all I'm gonna say.
thank you. No hot to mow today. Moving on to Recreation Board, Dwight did, back here, there's a map that he drew up, because I asked Dwight to give me an idea, or us an idea, of how many acres does it take for a typical baseball field. So he measured it out and cut to the chase. On a full-size high school baseball field, it's around 4 acres.
Without parking.
Without parking, without concessions, without any of that, just dugouts and out through. You can get Little League couple in there. And it gives us an idea, because we're in search of some acreage to put a park on the northeastern side of the township. We have a park over here, but we would like to have some recreation on the other side. So Dwight came through and mapped that out for us with all that, so that gives us a good idea. Let's talk about the SPCA, Christie.
At the Managers Association meeting, one manager reported that the SPCA wanted her to come back to us to see how each individual municipality and the Managers Association feel about the SPCA issuing a letter to York County asking for a donation. They have an $800,000 gap, and $400,000 would be, divided out to the municipalities how they currently do that, which is, per your population. And so for us, what that would mean is it would be a 10% increase for 2026, which would still keep us under $7,000 for the year of 2026 for animal sheltering. The other $400,000 is what they want to ask York County to donate. And if they can't get York County to donate, then that would be assessed onto each municipality. So our price would double, and it would be probably around, $14,000, a little less than $14,000 for the year 2026 for animal sheltering. So they just want to know how everyone feels about it before they send a letter. And Doug Hoke was there, and he said he can't speak for, the other commissioners, but he wasn't sure how well that would go over because that's a significant number for a budget that they weren't paying, And that's all I have.
That's an $800,000 gap deficit. Do we know where that money
Oh, yeah. So
went to?
what he said was, and he did prepare us for this last year, and I did report it to you guys at the time of the agreement, that they had not expected their insurance to raise significantly. They had a hard time trying to find insurance for general liability for the SPCA. And then they also took on a significant amount more of strays than anticipated. And he then elaborated on all that it takes to, go through that process with even just one stray, where you're looking at surgeries and if needed, and depending on the condition they came in on, and trainers, and to try to get them homed, and feeding them, and so on and so forth. So he went through that whole gyration last year. So yeah, that's mainly what he said. It was insurance, and then the amount of strays they took in.
So remind me again, we do this every year, I think. If we take a county commissioner's viewpoint on this and say, whoa, that's not going to fit in our budget, sorry, we're not going to pay. What's the ramifications?
Well, then the animals of East Manchester Township, I believe, won't really have a place to go, and you'll see a population of animals roaming. I'm sure people will just go over and dump them illegally, but at the SPCA. But I know that they have cameras and they report that, and I believe press charges against these people. But the services, I know that when we pay our service agreement, it discounts our residents for all of the services that they provide. If we didn't sign and pay that, they wouldn't get that discount, which is a lot of the reason why people use the SPCAs to get a discounted rate on like spay and neutering, for instance. It costs, and I knew this because I'm about to use the service in August. But if I go to the vet, it's going to cost me $1,000 just about, and that's no joke. It's almost $1,000 to get my dog neutered. But if I go to the SPCA, I only had to pay a little over $100. So that's the significant discount that I get since my borough signs an agreement and pays the service fee, with the SPCA. I also get discounted license and things there, so I don't have to pay the full pricing.
So people that have animals get that advantage over people that don't have animals,
Mhm.
but yet everyone is going to pay.
Well, if you think of it this way, we'll look at the 7,000, but no, we'll look at the 14,000 because I just don't foresee county paying 400,000. Anything could happen, but I don't see that happening. But we're going to say our bill is $14,000. If we had to run our own shelter, it would cost millions of dollars. So millions of dollars, $14,000. That's where I look at that.
Well, before I ask my colleagues, yeah, I do understand the importance of the SPCA within the county and with the residents that it serves. It's a vital need. I know that. But all of a sudden, just saying that they have an $800,000 gap and somebody's going to have to pay it does not go down too well with me. I mean, who takes accountability for this? I look at their revenues and their expenses, and the revenues in 23, I believe it was,
Yeah, it's 20.
was a little over $5 million. Their expenses were 4.7. Their total assets are 10.9 mil. Total liabilities is 671,000. And then I look down at their board of directors and everything, and they have some very, very smart people on the board of directors. You would think that somebody would see this coming and make some adjustments, but it appears not. Their director makes $174,000 a year. I'm just wondering who's going to be accountability.
You know, I voted against this last year. It's a necessary evil we have to have. I don't know if every municipality and county has to participate.
No, I believe there's like 2 municipalities in the whole county that doesn't participate.
Yeah. One of the things I'd like to know, well, I don't know when their board meetings are. They are a private organization. It's not a public record, but we are giving them public monies from our taxpayers. I have a problem with the executive director in 2023 made $174,220. The year before that, 2022, made $138,924, and he got a 25.41% increase between those 2 years. I don't understand. It says other, if he has a stipend, because in 2023 it says 12,300, in 2022 it said 11,624. If they need to cut some fat somewhere, I have some suggestions for them. I would like to know how many managers are paying versus how many laborers that actually do the work.
Well, they've got 5 executives in 23 that all made over 100,000.
Why do they need 2 offices? Why isn't the executive director and his staff in the SPCA with everybody else? I've gone in there, my wife and I go in there and visit the dogs a lot, and I see just oodles of people walking around. I don't know who are volunteers and who are paid laborers in there, but I just think they're mismanaged. But like I said, it's a necessary evil, but I just don't, they just keep submitting whatever they want. They're paying the executive director handsomely. I'm sure they're paying other people. I understand the veterinarians, they need, because of their education and their skill set. I understand that. I'd like to know what the difference is when I was looking at their stuff today, what the difference is between a clinical medical director and a sheltered medical director. Why are there $200,000 positions for each one of them? What's the difference in their work? So I'm not happy with it.
I mean, my comments are that, and just starting to look at some of their financial history, and thanks, Dave, for that link, because it provided back.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling some stuff together to just analyze some numbers, but from reading through the audit report, we all know that costs have increased radically coming on the other side of COVID for different things. Certainly insurance is one of those. It sounds like they may have shop that around. But my problem is kind of similar to everyone's, is the sense that, you know, the board, their history, they should have seen certain things coming, you know, as they plan for the budget. And you sit there and think about, well, what's the increase for additional animals showing up? Because that's something they can't really control, but they should have a sense of, well, there's more population coming in the area, certain things are happening. I mean, it's what they live and breathe. It's much like we do our budget things. Do you get it right and perfect? No. But to wind up with an $800,000 hole in the ground, the only way that would happen here at this township is if we had a storm come cruising through and we didn't plan for it, right? We don't necessarily plan for those massive events, but we know we've got, you know, funds set aside in the event that comes to fruition that we can lean into. And so it does call into question when, you know, you have folks that are highly compensated, and probably for all good reasons, but from what you're seeing in their financial stewardship, doesn't necessarily hang together for me either. But the alternative, as you said, Christy, it's far more than if we had to pay our percentage that they allocate. Again, I think it's based on population, right? So again, okay, we've got so many constituents here, so many residents in our township. Seems to be fairly allocated because people tend to have pets. So versus the alternative of not having that service, folks, you know, going in and paying a much higher rate for things. So yes, we have to do it, but doesn't mean we have to do it quietly. And we should knock on their door and send things back. I mean, one of the things, you know, Chrissy, I'll send you some bullet points, but on their website, they only show their current year audited financials. To me, they ought to have a couple years. And along with their nice, you know, 5 or 6 page kind of put things in layman's terms, they ought to have that out there a couple years to go back and really show their history, in my opinion.
Do you know what your managers association is going to do about this request?
There was no discussion about it at this meeting. They just let the one manager explain what she was told, and everyone just kind of nodded their heads like, yeah, we'll take it back to our boards kind of thing. So that's really as far as that went in that meeting.
Is this something maybe the Township Association, your County Township Association and the Borough Association can get their heads together and see if we can address this issue anyway with their board?
Is that similar to like what the York County Convention is? Is that what, or is that something different?
It's a group.
It's that group?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was under the impression they only meet like once a year, which is at that gathering in the fall.
Yeah.
And then everybody there has a vote. And so if you wanted to bring things to it, you'd have to let them know in advance to put on the agenda basically for the meeting. And then, and I know you weren't there last year, Daryl, but David and I witnessed how something that should have been simple went nowhere because you have a room full of people who have completely different ideas. It went nowhere.
Well, with your group, the managers group for your county, would they be interested in trying to do something? Get some answers?
That's the committee that gathers these things to put on the agenda for a vote at the convention.
Yep.
So to answer Daryl's question, yes, you and your friends in the committee can
Oh, yeah,
bring certain things up.
we could definitely do that for the fall. I have to talk to them about that because I'm not officially on that committee yet, but I'm working on it. But I can put the request in. But I think, to be honest, I think the first place we should start is with the managers group, and I can take your comments tonight to the group to see what others, you know, have, or I can even send an email out to give them a heads up so that they're all very aware of what we're going to discuss at the managers meeting. And then what I think is we need to go to their board, we need to go to the SPCA's board meeting to
Right.
ask these questions. And because if we just send a letter, with all due respect to Stephen Martinez, but I just feel like Stephen would get our letter, write a response to it, a very well thought out response, and we wouldn't get anywhere. And because that's what his job is, that's what he does. And you experienced it here in your meeting like 2 times, I believe he's been here now.
I'm curious what he does, because when you read the different positions under him, he has someone that goes out and campaigns to get donations. He has someone to do this, he has someone to do that. I don't know what he does.
And I can't find, their directors, their board meeting dates, they're not listed.
Private entity.
Well, that's my thought.
So where do we stand on, I think we're over a barrel here. I think we have to let the SPCA's know that, yeah, send a letter to the county. It's in our best interest if the county would, acquiesce and spend 400,000, which I don't think they're going to do.
But we should do that. Yeah, we need to encourage them to at least ask.
Yeah, so I'm okay with the letter being sent, but I'm not okay with the whole premise here. I mean, they have a lot of taxpayer dollars at their disposal. And I question their stewardship over that money. So I think you can take back to the managers to get a feeling, and we may be minority in this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to gauge. I mean, when we were at the managers meeting, that was at the SPCA, that was at the end of last year, or towards the end of last year. The biggest thing that the managers really were up in arms about is that it shouldn't be on the municipalities, but it should be county who is taking on these fees. And the municipalities, shouldn't have anything to do with that because this is a county problem. It's called York County SPCA.
Yeah.
And so that was the biggest thing from the managers. But otherwise, I mean, I know that there was some debate at that meeting as well to how they price, but after you heard some different municipalities fight on why they didn't like these other ways, like we might think, oh, it's on population, that's wrong. Well, then you got a small borough who has a really high bill because they're easier to drop off in because they're in the middle of nowhere. So they get tons of dogs picked up from their borough. And so they're like, I want it based on my population because at least I can predict my next year's budget. I can't predict based off of how many strays are caught because it's not consistent, So we listened to all different sides of this, everyone's story, and that was very helpful to hear. But no, nobody was beating up, some of the things. I understand what you're saying because I saw the numbers today too, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, that is a significant amount of money. But at the same time, I don't know what they do. He might do a significant amount. He might work an awful lot. I don't know that because I'm not his board and I don't see what he does and I don't manage him. So, I mean, do I think it's poor financial decisions if you're going to give your staff raises knowing that you have an $800,000 gap? That's not good. I think you should think about those kinds of things before you make those decisions. But yeah, so I can take your comments back to the SPCA, or I'm sorry, to the Managers Association, and then maybe somebody or all of us, there's a couple of us, go to the actual SPCA board meeting. I did find a roundabout when they have those. It's one of those things that you have to keep on checking. Like I think there was one either in July, it might already passed, or it's coming up.
Okay.
So, just so you're aware.
Anything else, SPCA? Nope. Let's go to Shane's report. Any questions, gentlemen? Manchester Street looks good. Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Canal Road extended, it's nice.
looks good. Anybody live on Park Street?
Park Street's done, and Bay Shore School is being worked on this week. Should be done this week, so.
I think overall, Shane, our roads look good.
Thank you, I think they do too, so.
So, the bridge repair down there, was there a revelation that you weren't anticipating, like the bottom of that culvert is rusted out or something like that?
Yeah, the bottom of the culvert's rusted out. It's always passed inspection, the past 4 or 5 years. It's getting worse. And even the gentleman said, it will get to the point where it won't pass. But it's not failing, if that makes sense. The bridge is going nowhere. It's only surface rust, but they won't allow it there under PennDOT specs. So, for Chestnut Street now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the hard part of the job is that creek has to be dammed and pumped for a week. So,
For a week,
probably at least 4 days.
for it to dry up, good enough for you.
No, while the work's going, it has to be rerouted.
So explain to me in layman's terms, you gonna put a sleeve through there that'll correct the bottom, or big plastic
To
pipe?
correct it or
what-
to
what-
dam it? No, we're gonna use a culvert dam, which is a large bag. They set the bag across the creek, they fill it with water. So basically it becomes airtight, or not airtight, but every crack
And
and
then you're
crevice.
gonna
is
pump it
done.
around.
Then we'll pump it straight down through the middle with a 10-inch hose.
So then what goes underneath the overpass then?
So the bridge is a CMP bridge. It's metal arch. The metal arches sit on footers. From the concrete footers up, probably 3 feet, 2.5, 3 feet, is where the rust is the issue.
Oh, okay.
And so clients will come in, the one side is buried under soot. So of course, I can't just wash this soot back out into the creek, even though a good flood might help me, if that
Well,
makes sense.
No, you told us you can't.
Yeah, I know, well, Byron already called me on that one, so. Yeah, so clients come in, they'll pump out all that soot and everything, and then, I have, Keystruck, Gun Creek, they're called. They do, it's basically a spray-on concrete,
Like swimming pool.
basically, yep, same concept, yep. So they're spraying that last 3 feet of the bottom, and, it's a legit way, it passes PennDOT inspection and everything, and then it should sit maybe 2 days after that then to cure, so, yeah.
Thank you for that explanation. I got a better,
Yeah, I'm just trying to get dry season to happen. But with the spring we had, it's been a little rough, so. The other thing I have then is the detour, for the Canal Road project. Me and Byron usually sign off on these, but with this project, me and Chrissy thought we'd let you guys have a look at it. I think everybody's in on the loop on this anyway. But any questions on that detour?
we are in the loop, and I appreciate you sending that to us for our review. But I want to stick with our protocol that, that's Public Works Director's domain to approve that, so. Thank you anyhow, do you concur?
Agreed, man. Appreciate the
Yeah,
information.
and I don't need anything passed for that.
All right, well then, tomorrow when, I write the email back, just if there's any certain language that you want me to put in it, then I will.
Yeah, let me know. The only language me and Byron ever had is, under the stipulation, if we see issues with anything, we will let them know. Maybe some of the signs are a little off or something like that when it's done, people aren't understanding some of it, so.
Okay.
And then they're fine with that all the time.
And we are in coordination with the school district.
They will be, but if not, yeah, we will be then. So.
All right. Anything else in your, Shane?
That's everything I have.
Anything for Shane?
No.
Accountants, July report, anything you got? Anything you want to add to that?
To the accountant's report?
Yeah.
No, unless you have any questions.
We have the Manchester Borough minutes there. States fact that we have to pay bills. Do we do that?
Do we have to pick them?
Do we have to pay bills?
I think it's probably the prudent thing to do.
Would you want to make a motion to pay bills?
I will make a motion to pay all the bills that are due.
I'll second the motion. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Andy's bills aren't in this batch, so you know.
That's a tough crowd. Yeah, I know.
Supervisors' comments. Dean,
Don't we have a August meeting coming up for
yes, we do.
finance
I'm
review?
gonna report on that.
Okay,
Remind everybody.
that was just the only thing that came to my mind. Thank you.
Anything, Darrell?
We have, just so everyone knows, there was a garbage rate increase. It's our annual increase. This is year 5, or year 4? 4, and then next year is an option.
That's correct.
But I see comments all the time about different services, and they're all kind of iffy and complain about pen waste, and they want someone else to take over the business and stuff. That's comments.
Remember, we got that new trash service out there. on George
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah. So anyways, that's, just so everybody knows, it was rate increase. Also, we did submit our fire study for DECD to review our fire services and give us any input, suggestions.
Are we gonna have, borough
And
representatives on there?
I don't know the makeup of it. I know the 2 boroughs were gonna be asked by DECD if they want to get in on this, so that they can collect data from them. And I'm not aware of what action has taken place yet.
Okay.
I don't know if Joe does with Manchester Borough. Okay. Okay.
That's it? That's it? Okay, just some announcements. Thursday's July 16th, no, Wednesday. Wednesday, July 16th is the next York County Regional Police Department meeting, and that's going to be at Spring Garden at the Tri-Hill Road precinct, or new precinct there. That was the Spring Gardens municipal building. We're going to have half of that building. They'll retain the other half. Just a reminder that August 5th, August 5, National Night Out. Ours is usually held up at Orndorff Elementary. York County Regional will undoubtedly have one down at Downstown Park and maybe in Spring Garden area. I'm not sure about that yet. August 21st, we will have our Township financial review. That is held during the day, am I right?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. It's in this meeting room, and it's open to the public. We review our finances, where we are to date, and project out what we want to do for 26. So that'll be an interesting meeting.
Just one clarification.
Yes.
You're right. We look where we are year to date. We kind of project to the end of the year, and we talk about what 26 may look like. We don't do any projections yet, because that budget actually happens later in the year, October.
October.
So
22nd.
we're prepping for it.
That's correct.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, and some of my comments is that I think we should put a little money in an account for
Capital account, we call it, right? Is that
But the capital account for projected possible future capital expenditures, plus the, what is it, the semi-quincentennial, 250,
That's a hard one to say.
yes.
Yeah, that thing.
In case we have some money in there, that in case we need to do some banners or flags or whatever we need to do, we're not searching through. And we may have something there, that miscellaneous that we can use. But we have to keep that in mind. And I just want to remind everybody that this SPCA thing is not unusual. The state does this to us all the time. It's called an unfunded mandate, where we have to do what we have to do. We don't like it, but it's a mandate that comes down and it costs us more money. So that has to be factored into our expenditures and everything for our budget for 26. So I think we have to forecast for the worst there. So that's all I have. And Andy, I'd like to call for an executive session for personnel and litigation issues. Don't mind. So we're going to adjourn or recess?
Typically, you would recess and then come back and adjourn.
Okay, I'll make a motion that there'll be no other business, we're not gonna act on anything yet back, so. But I'll make a motion that we recess to executive session, and thank you. Is there any final comments from the audience? I wanna give you the final word if you have any. Joey?
I'll second the motion.
Second my motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Joe. I promised Christie I would.
I almost forgot about it because that happened like two or 3 weeks ago now. No, it wasn't. It was like last week or something.
No, they're all